What's up, y'all? We are back at it with another whiteboard video. This time it's going to be something that I have been applying to my training recently that I want to share with you guys. It's been very simple, very effective, and honestly a lot of fun. There's two different ways you can implement it. We're going to get into how you can do that specifically in a second, but first I want to talk about who this is for. First and foremost, it's for guys that appreciate good art. So if you like this ZODD drawing or you want to see me draw different things, leave requests down in the comments down below, like an anime character or manga character that's jacked that you want me to draw. Just because I like sprucing up the whiteboard a little bit. But all that aside, talking about who it's for people that like change in their training. So like if you're someone that gets bored easily in your training, quite honestly, and you like to change things around a lot, you're rotating through things weekly. It's kind of conjugate-ish in a way. That's kind of what I was inspired by. Now, it's also for people who enjoy specificity and predictability. You want to get strong. That's the main thing. That's why I'm using it. If that sounds good to you, or if those things sound good to you, keep watching because this is the video for you. Now, movements that I recommend that you use it on are big lifts and the main exercises of the day. We're going to get into specific exercises down here after we explain the two methods. Now, for all intents and purposes, if you wanted to call this something, like for when you tag me on Instagram or something like that, you can call it the ZODD protocol or the immortal method. I don't know. I'll leave my final decision down in the comments after I upload this. But there are two different ways you can implement it. I've used both or either. It really just depends upon where I'm at in my training and what I personally feel like I need. Now, this first method I'll say is for someone that you respond better to high intensity often. I'm someone that responds better personally to high intensity often, so I veer more towards doing this. Why I say that is that weekly, you're working up to a 3 rep max, a 5 rep max, and an 8 rep max at a big exercise, right? You rotate weekly, so if you do 3 reps here, next week you're gonna do 5, next week you're gonna do 8, and we'll get into that volume plus notation in a second. Why it says plus is because when you revisit these things, you're either gonna do a little bit more weight if you're good for it, or you're gonna do extra reps. Now what that looked like specifically for me is that, I went through my 3s, 5s, 8s, and so on safety bar squats. When I came back to them, and then I was on my 5 reps week, I did 5 reps and I'm like, this is easy. I can do more. So instead of doing a little bit more weight because I wanted to save that for when I came to like the heavier stuff, I'm gonna bang out a couple more reps. I think I did either 6 or 7, and I could have did 10, but I called it at 6 or 7. So it's flexible as well. So it's not rigid. You don't have to do 3 reps, but you're doing 3 at a minimum. Now, percentages that you want to think about if you haven't established these yet or you don't know that, typically speaking, a good 3 rep max is gonna be 90%, a 5 rep max is gonna be 85%, and then an 8 rep max is gonna be, like 78, 80%, So if you know your training max, you could do the math. Or, if you hit a 5 rep max, more than likely you can divide that by 85%. You could do that for a 1 rep max on a good day. Now this notation down here is just something that I have found through experience and coaching people to be true. If you subtract between 12 and 15% on whatever you did on these top sets, on your back downs, like your additional volume work with that exercise, you're gonna be able to do 2 more reps than you did up here for your sets, right? So if you do 3 reps here, you subtract the percentage, you're gonna be able to do 5 rep sets. You do 5s here, subtract the percentage, you're gonna be able to do 7, 8, 10. It's math so simple, even a caveman like me can do it. Now, in terms of the volume sets, these are really just here if, realistically, you're gonna be cycling between these 3. If you feel pretty bad for the day, quite honestly, and you feel like, you would just offer a poor performance here, you can pick something pretty light that you could hit for a set of like 3x10 across, for example. Let's just say squats. 3x10 squats, even on a bad day, you can get that. The next time you feel like you're on a bad day, you revisit that volume just so you can chip this a little bit, right? But by chip it, I mean do a little bit more weight. So the next time you revisit it, you feel bad, you do 320 for 3x10. It just allows you to get in some good work without having to subject yourself to a bad workout here. So that's more so the mindset piece there. Now, another way that you could implement this method of using 3s, 5s, and 8s and then the volume is this is something that I have learned through observing the training of legendary lifters like Ed Coan, Dan Green. What they've basically said is that you can make your training very simple where you're just adding weight to each of these sessions if you spread the sessions out enough. So in other words, if you lay out between 8 and 12 weeks of training and you're doing your part on like all your accessories and everything else that comes into play, you're gonna be able to add weight when you revisit these 3s and these 5s and so on, predictably and linearly. Now what that looks like is you lay out 8 weeks of training. So you get 2 weeks of 3s, 2 weeks of 5s, 2 weeks of 8s, and then 2 weeks at, straight sets of volume, right? So that could look like, for example, if you need to be someone that puts numbers to this, it could be 2 weeks at 270 at 3s, 5s, 8s, and so on. Or you could invert this. You could start with the 8s, go to 5s, and then go to 3s. It's up to you, right? You're just trying to establish 8 weeks of training and then beat the books when you revisit this same 8-week cycle. So by beat the books, that's something that I got from my boy Sam Sheether. It just put words to a concept that I understand. Super caveman. You put something on the books and you do more next time you do it. It's very easy. I prefer this first method for me personally, just because I respond better to intensity. But if you're someone that responds better to sub-maximal volume, the second approach is going to be the approach for you. Now let us zoom in on this handsome fellow ZODD with his jacked giga jawline. These are exercises that I prefer using for either of these particular implementations of the ZODD protocol. We'll call it that. That's my final decision, the ZODD protocol. Close grip bench, Larson press. This is for the horizontal pressing. The reason why I like these specifically is that close grip bench allows you to work your triceps a little bit more and offer more range of motion, and then just allow you to work something different that isn't a competition style bench. If you're someone that is already doing a lot of volume on that, you know that if you break up your exercise selection so that your movement patterns are different, it just makes you more healthy overall. Now, Larson press is something that I have made many videos about. A lot of y'all know me to do Larson press. The reason why I love it so much, guys, is that it does a few things. One, it allows you to alleviate fatigue on your lower body if you are training it very hard because you're not using leg drive. And leg drive, if you're using it correctly on bench press, is very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable on your lower back. It's uncomfortable on your legs, especially when they're already sore. So Larson press removes that. Takes a little bit of load off the bar because you're not able to use leg drive. It's nothing enormous. It's like 20 to 30 pounds usually if you're good at leg drive or if you know how to use it. But what it's mostly good for is that it isolates all of that tension to your upper body because you're not using your legs to assist. So those are the horizontal exercises that I like using this particular method on. In terms of squat motion patterns, I like SSB squats and low bar squats. They're big meaty squats that you can do a lot of weight on. Safety bar squats are what I like to call a self-limiting variation. That's just the Giga Brain way of saying you're using a variation or doing something with a barbell lift to make it harder. So this is a harder variation of a low bar squat or a high bar squat. This is really good for accumulating robust volume on either of these implementations of this method. Low bar squats, same thing. The only difference is that I would use the safety bar squats more in like the beginning of your training cycle. And then as you want to peak your low bar squat, by that I mean specifically increase your low bar squat, you do the freaking low bar squat. It's not rocket science, guys. You do the lift to get better at the lift. And then in terms of hip hinges, and then we'll go into like the calisthenics bros, because I'm sure a couple of y'all are going to be interested in doing this. Stiff leg deadlifts and conventional deadlifts. You can do sumo too. I personally just do these two, conventional and stiff leg, because I just prefer them specifically. But if you're a sumo puller, like I said in my Q&A that I just made, check that out. You could sub this in for like pause deadlifts on a stiff bar and then like your sumo deadlifts. Stiff leg deadlifts are awesome. They are the best deadlift variation in general in terms of assisting the strength of your conventional deadlift, just because you use a significant portion less of weight on a stiff leg deadlift, while also working your spinal erectors a lot harder, working your hamstrings a lot harder, and then just ensuring that you actually know how to hip hinge. There's tons of people, I watch them deadlift, and then they try to do an RDL, and then they just like freaking squat into it because they don't have the capacity to hinge. Stiff leg deadlifts will teach you that. And then obviously, conventional deadlift is just the superior deadlifting variation. Let me know, do y'all like conventional or sumo better? Now finally, before we wrap things up, there are a few calisthenics and back variations that you could also use this on. I prefer pull-ups, seal rows, and dips. I guess you could do weighted push-ups and standing barbell rows as well. The reason why I don't recommend them is that one, weighted push-ups aren't very easy to load, and two, standing barbell rows are hard to keep strict. With all of these, they were selected because you can ensure like a standard movement pattern and a good rep quality. The most you can do on a bench press is like not pause it for as long or touch and go it on a rep or two. And then with squats, same thing. The worst you can do is go slightly below or slightly above parallel on a couple reps. That's not a huge deal as long as you don't make a habit out of doing that on every rep, on every set, every time. It's a lot harder to do that on standing barbell row. Yeah, you can keep it strict. Oh yeah, you can keep it strict on every rep. I do it. There's going to be someone in the comments that thinks that, but guys, not everyone is going to keep their barbell rows strict if they're going heavy or if they're exerting themselves. It's just natural to hinge into it a little bit and use a little body English. And then, like I said, with the weighted push-ups, it's just hard to load them. Like, not everyone has a weighted vest that you can load with plates to do them. That has been the ZODD protocol, guys. This is how you get jacked like ZODD from Berserk. Berserk is my favorite manga anime series. I have the brand of sacrifice on my back. Y'all have seen it by now. I take my shirt off all the time. I'm jacked and I got the brand of sacrifice on my back. Anyway, this method is a lot of fun. I'm considering doing a lot more of these, like fleshing out things that I try in my training and then accompanying them with like a cool drawing. So if that's something that y'all want to see, let me know down in the comments below. Y'all have a good one.